Well, talking business news now, for the third time in 2 years, President Muhammadu Buhari has again directed the Central Bank of Nigeria not to provide foreign exchange for the importation of food items. The president made this known at the 5th regular meeting with the Presidential Economic Advisory Council that held at the State House in Abuja. Now, this is the third time the president would issue the directive, first in August 2019 and again in September this year. President Buhari was quoted as saying his administration will tackle food inflation come next year. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, food inflation currently stands at about 18.3%. That, according to the latest report brought about in the month of November, a sign of increasing food prices across the country. Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this development and much more, I have with me the Chief Executive Officer of Finance, Mukta Muhammad. Good to have you on the Breakfast Show today.
Good morning, David.
And compliments of the season, the last day of the year 2020. Now, what do you make of this announcement, this move by the president, reiterating its stance on food importation? He's directed once again the Central Bank of Nigeria not to release forex for food importation. How does this come to you?
Sometimes when you see the president make repeated statements, maybe you tend to think maybe if CBN was actually giving out, he's telling them that you don't give it out again, don't give, like if he has an information. But I don't think CBN is doing that. And again, just let me take an example. It's not saying that they cannot source for their forex themselves. It's just saying that CBN should not give them forex. And you know when CBN gives you forex, they give you at the official exchange rate of about 391. So now you're telling them to source, they will source from the parallel market at 470 something, and then they will bring it back to the consumers.
Well, we already have measures put in place now that checkmates importation of food items, certain food items.
David, there are certain food items that have been banned, and even those that have been banned, we've not been able to meet it locally. Let me give you an example. We did not ban the importation of rice. We said we can still bring in rice. What they did, they hiked the tariff in terms of bringing in the rice into the country. And then our locals were saying that they should produce those rice for us. As it stands now, when you look at the difference in price between the foreign and the imported rice, you realize it's very marginal.
Talking about this rice, the president also says that we have about 7 states producing rice, and then we are meeting
It's still not sufficient. You know, you and I know that even this period of festivity period, we can see the hike. A bag of rice, the local bag of rice, is selling for about 30,000, 28 to 30,000, and the foreign is selling for 32 to 35,000. So you see the difference, and so you are giving, you are creating a room for inflation. Nigerians are used to buying mostly foreign things. Now let me give you an example. You are not giving them to import food products. Remember, baby foods, all the children's foods are still going to be imported. Cereal, they are still going to be imported, and those are what majority of Nigerians will want to buy, and they will buy it at a very high rate. And that has a snowball effect when you see the inflation figures start coming out. So we are not doing anything differently. We are just making policy statement, but we don't have the wherewithal to be able to tackle our own food sufficiency. Just some months ago, some farmers that were farming were attacked. There's insecurity in the northeast. That's why at a point you ask the women all over were shouting about the scarcity of onions. So a lot of things are not being put right. A lot of the environment is still hostile, and yet we are saying, look, we must begin to we must begin to feed for ourselves. As it stands now, Nigeria doesn't have that capability.
What do you also make of the statement from the president saying that he would monitor food inflation? As at the last report we had earlier released by the National Bureau of Statistics, it's currently about 18.3%.
How does he monitor
month
food?
to month, we've had steady increase. That is
how will it go? I just gave you a fact. The only way you can monitor food inflation is to make sure that there is security. I'm giving you tomatoes, onions, all those products that come from the northeast, rice and others. When there is security, how does the farmer go to farm? Remember that even the spokesman of the president, Garba Shehu, was saying that for them to go to the farm, farmers will have to take permission from the military to guide them to go to farm. So are we not saying we have enough military to guide them to go to farm, then to produce? Remember that it's not long ago we had a farmer henchman crisis. That is still there, even if it's being managed. So then we have the issue of the lockdown, which a lot of farmers could not go. We have the infrastructure. So unless it's saying you want to impose measures, Inflation has nothing to do whether you monitor it or you put policy in place, you do the right thing. Inflation will generally come down on its own. It's based on demands and supply. As long as our locals are not able to meet our local demands and we are able to source for that foreign, definitely inflation will play a role until we become self-sufficient in food production. And we still have a very long way to go.
We still have a very long way to go. The basics is still harvesting, growing the crops. That's the biggest challenge before we now even talk about processing, storage, infrastructure that is expected to move all of this. But what's your forecast for food inflation now come December and then looking at the first quarter of the year 2021? Do you still think we'll see a further spike?
We will. We'll definitely see a further spike. There's no doubt about that, especially with the festivity period, with demand and supply coming into play. We see a spike in inflation. Ordinarily, December is always a period whereby you see a hike in a lot of food items because of the festivity period. Now, coupled with the inflation figures that have not been looking good, then come to the festivity period, from the challenge in security, the movement of goods and services. I mean, there's no how we will not see those inflation figures goes up a little.
And some also say that, well, possibly we'll see inflation come down, especially looking at the price of rice, for example. Since the borders were reopened, we still do not accept foreign rice into the country, but they found a way into the markets. And
let's get it straight. They didn't ban importation of foreign rice, but you need to source for those forex yourself. And so the thing is that to get this inflation, to get all this balance, we need to look at our forex regime by the CBN. If we have stability in the forex market, most of all the challenges that we have in inflation will come down, because even if you are saying you are not importing foreign, you don't want us to import foreign rice. What of the machines that we use in the production of this of the rice here, even local rice? We need to import these machines, and the importation of those machines is not going to be cheap. Even if federal government have decided to give a moratorium or brought down the interest rate, if you are, the custom duty, if you are bringing in tractors and others, that's to tell you that there's still a challenge. So if you bring those things in, the exchange rate will make those price of those equipment high, and so then no farmer is in business to lose money. So definitely you in turn have this thing come back to the consumers. So what we are saying is that there is a policy in place, but there is the structural and infrastructural deficits, and those cannot be met locally. They have to be made foreign. They have to be made foreign, and then you are not, even when you are meeting it, you have a challenge that has to do with the exchange rates, both in the parallel and even in the official.
Let's talk about the pricing of commodities as well, food items, maize, cocoa, and a whole lot more in the commodities market at this point in time. Wrapping up our conversation, we've seen reduced production capacity so far. How are the prices faring in the equities market?
It's still high there. So, like you said, reduction in production, and some of this reduction in production has nothing to do because there are no buyers or customers to buy it. It has to do with infrastructural challenges. They have to do, and most of the major challenges they are going through now is security challenges. So most farmers are not able to go to the farm because of kidnapping, armed banditry, castle roaster. So there's a lot of challenge. So what you're saying plain out is not because we have been able to meet demands. And you know, when there's a shortage of demands, there is the people that wants the supply is not there. The demand is high. So generally the price of these goods will be up.
Security first. That's the body language.
You don't play. If we are able to tackle our security, especially in the Northeast, that I think that should be what the president should be talking about, bringing down inflation. Security in the north, if then bring stability in our forex exchange regime, we'll have the inflation will generally go down on its own.
Thank you very much for your time on the Breakfast Show today, Mukta Mohammed. We'll keep our fingers crossed and see what plays out come next year. There's just a few more hours to go.